Member of Special Forces in the Elite Counter-Terror Team. Our training is to find weak spots. So when we're going to go and do some type of operation, we do lots of planning, and we prepare to see if we can penetrate certain areas. In the field of physical security for events, and I'll cover different levels of events. Michael was talking about Olympic Games and big football games and stadiums, but many of the big events are not just in a closed, confined area like a stadium. Many of them are like marathons. So you can have a major city holding a very large marathon, and the Boston bombing is a classic example. How do you secure something that is near impossible to secure? And one of the biggest dilemmas we have is like, do we categorize everyone that's coming to see the event as a suspect? And how do we treat people if there is any way that we can select and filter who is coming to see the event? The other physical problem is, can we deal with weapons? You see, in many countries, you would say weapons are banned, but unfortunately, most of the terrorist attacks that happened recently anywhere are done by some type of weapon or dirty bomb. And another soft spot that I always targeted is that the job can be done from inside. So you have staff that works in a stadium, and do we really do background check on all of our employees? One of the weakest spots that we have discovered in our service is that, you know what? Lots of the employees from cleaning, maintenance, you know what? They're so low level, but no one really checks out to see, are they part of a plot against? So we're always talking about technologies and having this camera and that camera. But the thing is that it comes down way much more basically. I think that one of the biggest things is that are we not filtering who are we employing in what type of events? So if you're going to be hiring, a manpower is going to be called in. Oh, we need a certain amount of group to do security. And it's like Michael said, it's very random. You don't get to get these guys 2 years in advance, train them and filter them. They're probably going to come in 60 days, 90 days in advance, and they're very low cost paid. Even if it's in a major event. And I'm not sure you get the highest quality people to do these kind of jobs, and do they really care, and what's the level of their training? Are they trained on suspicious behavior? Do they know what to look for? I've been in the industry for quite a long time, and it turns out to be that in many events, people don't even know what to look for. I actually go up to people that do security and ask them, tell me, can I ask you a question? And they said, yeah, sure. What are you doing here? He says, oh, I'm doing security. And I said, and what are you looking for? He says, oh, I don't really know. With my, of course, sense of humor, that's one of the biggest problems. So yes, you can have cameras, you can have drones, you can have whatever CCTVs you want, but when things go bad, the people that were hired to do the job, what is their capability on responding? And even if I'm talking about countries where they're armed, you see, for example, I'm from Israel, and we had an incident about 20 years ago where people were waiting in the line to buy the tickets for a match. Again, of course, it's not a major event, but it's a fantastic case study because you had a Muslim terrorist carry a 20-kilo backpack. He was standing in line. And when he standing in line with the crowd outside, he detonated and killed 28 people and wounded around 70. So you're asking yourself, is it only all what's going on inside the stadium versus the layers and the circles? We refer to it like onions. We have rings of security all around. And I can go even deeper. What about the public transportation? You see, if I'm on my way with football teams to an event, can I cause chaos on 3 buses, multiple attacks at the same time? So if we're looking at incidents that happened, for example, in France, those are classic case studies. It doesn't mean it happened in an event. But what I can tell you is that terrorists are very creative and innovative. They're plotting every given minute. Crime, theft, stealing wallets, bags, of course, it's a problem. But that's not why we're here. We're talking about mass casualties. What happens inside the stadium or outside of the stadium when things go bad? So one of the things that are very simple is, first of all, hire the right people and pay them well. That's what I think. Is there a standard in security? I think it's not good enough. That's my humble opinion. If anyone disagrees with me, we can have a discussion later. The other part is technology is great. See, in Israel, for example, on such a large stadium, we launch a balloon. A giant balloon hovering above the stadium gives you fantastic helicopter view. And you can see actually all the movements from a command vehicle or for some type of command center, and you can see actually what's going on. If you suspect something's going to happen, you see some suspicious behavior and technology is involved, and you can have people going to restricted areas and so on. You can have a team that can go in there first and respond and just question, hey, you're not supposed to be in this restricted area. Why are you walking here? The question is, do people actually do that? Law enforcement cannot be present every minute, everywhere. Impossible. Impossible. I see that everywhere I go. It doesn't have to be, by the way, a big public event on a stadium. It can be, like I said, marathons, outdoor, when you have probably in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of spectators on the distance of a certain amount of miles or kilometers. And it takes only one crazy guy with a truck, a car, and we witness those. So can we barricade a stadium? Just like Michael showed on his presentation, can you really barricade everything? Who cars can come in and who cannot? So even if there is a checkpoint, can I ram through that checkpoint and run into the crowd? Probably yes. So it's not just inside the stadium that's what's going to happen, and to that we have to give also great solutions, but also on the outside. In the doctrine that I come from, we look at the preemptive measures. What can be done? In my past, I was requested many times with my team in the service, can we do what we call red cell? Can we penetrate certain organizations or security to see if there's weak spots? Not necessarily stadiums, but just as a case study. We were talking about cyber, Michael mentioned cyber, and satellite communication. In my past, I was requested with a team to enter a very high-end facility that has satellite communication that can shut down everything. I'm talking state level. And of course, everyone was assuming we're going to go through the gates. But of course, no one thought you can use gliders, and no one thought you can do free fall. And actually, we used drones like gliders, glide into the base very far away, walked into the base, actually had same uniforms, clothing as people that work on the base. And later on, we even managed to leave the facility to put a fake bomb in a very sensitive spot. And the people from that base said, oh, you guys didn't do the drill yet? And we said, no, you didn't check in your computer room. And of course, we placed over there like a demi bomb. And we even stole one of their vehicles and left the gate. And we said, we're holding one of your vehicles. So what I'm saying is that when you even think everything is still covered, and there's right resources, and there's people that are highly motivated, they will find a way. And gathering intelligence on crime and on terrorism is really important, but that is a very, very difficult field, even if Interpol is involved and police is involved. At the end of the day, most of the effort will fall on the private companies that are supporting the events, and they're going to be the major people that are doing the inspections at the gates, tickets, in the stadium. So when something happens inside of a stadium, who goes where? Who does what? Is there a plan? Can you really synchronize what happens when there's massive panic? I say that when people invest so much money on multi-million dollars of technology, one major thing is missing. That you need to have a trained response team on the field. If we don't have a response team that's highly armed and trained, I would say a local SWAT, high-end military unit that can intervene in a matter of minutes if there's an active shooter, because these things will happen in the future events in the near time. Critical response, dogs, EOD, experts on explosives, sniffing, having even undercover people that are armed in the audience, that they can walk around, bump into people, hang out with people, talk to people, create dialogues, and sniff and see if there's something wrong. And the idea is to try to reach as many people as possible, filter out when they're coming through the gates, and seeing who would be problematic. If we're talking about violence, it means, can I manage to smuggle in knives? can I smuggle in some type of fluids that are flammable? And lots of football events, hey, guys rip their shirts off, everybody smokes in a football game. Gasoline in a bottle, I think it will pass through. Make a cocktail bottle, throw it in, start fire, start a smoke. What do we do then? So all of these things are actually low-tech. There's no really, being a genius to get this done. So if you have a psychopath that wants to do it, a very unhappy, guy that he comes to see his team and they lost. And also, by the way, separating the teams and letting them out of the gates at different times. So you would not put one team of hooligans with another team of hooligans and then you have chaos. The idea is, can you control who's coming in, who's coming out, separating them on one side of the stadium and then on the other side of the stadium and let them leave like 20 minutes before, keep them entertained somehow, and then later on these guys go through completely different gates. So this is one of the big problems that we have: audience, terrorism, and the correlation between using technology to prevent the future attacks. And my greatest concern is not actually the stadiums, it's what happens outside of the stadiums. If the security was good, it would probably be difficult. I'm saying difficult, not impossible, but it would be difficult if it was Olympic level games and the budget was like near unlimited, because that's what usually happens with Olympic games. It would be extremely difficult to smuggle in something, but again, it's possible. Unless we have a problematic employee. And if we look at a case study that happened, it's not related to sports events, but if we look at a case study that happened many years ago in Russia, the Beslan school, when you're building stadiums and you have employees that are doing the construction, is it possible while they're doing the construction, they will plot and set explosive devices, stash weapons, AK-47? That's what happened in Beslan school in Russia. Do you know the Beslan incident, the terrorist attack? I think 300 children were killed, 1,000 wounded. The employees that actually did renovation in the school were Muslim Chechenian. They were regular employees, no one ever checked them. While they were doing construction, they stashed AK-47 and boxes of grenades. No background check, no one cared. They were just cement, bricks, fixing, painting, decoration, whatever. When the moment came and they were ready, school was on, hundreds and hundreds of students, they came back, took it out where it was in the hiding place, and launched one of the most devastating attacks against kids in a school. And was there a response team to go there? Oh, later on they called in some Spetsnaz team, but it took quite a long time. So the amount of casualties that you can inflict damage, immediately, if there's no response team presence on the premises, inside the crowd blending in. And by the way, what happens when someone does open fire? Blue on blue. Are we trained enough to handle this? In my training, when I run training worldwide, we do a lot of force-on-force simulation. And we video and record lots of drills. And it turns out to be even well-trained policemen will fail in their job if they haven't done scenario training, hundreds and hundreds of repetitions, and they will not succeed. And that's one of the problems we have. So to conclude my speech, I want to say that manpower would be the number one. Make sure that you have the best response team. I would advise people that are involved in stadiums or events, outdoor events, indoor events, to check who are they hiring. It takes just a little bit more effort to make sure that they don't have any agenda, political agenda. They're not related to some type of group of terrorism. They idolize ISIS on social media, and it needs to be checked out. Today, almost everyone's using social media. In a short interview and a short background check, it can be checked out. I would probably do that number one before I even plan the event. And then, if you did hire them, train them well. Make sure they're trained on what to look for. Because when I just came from Paris yesterday, and I came through the big train station over there, and I asked security, what are you guys looking for? Oh, we're just looking. And if something happens, What do you do? Oh, we can't do anything. We're not legally, we can't do anything. And by the way, I think it's very similar in the UK. You cannot do anything. The security guard, he does not have any actually legal rights to do any action against anybody. So, and that's, again, a phenomenon. We hire security that is underpaid, they can't do anything anyway, but even if they could do something, the legislation, the law doesn't let them do it. So, why? I mean, what's wrong with the system that they just can't do anything? So, I hoped I gave you a different angle the way I see things from Israel. And just wanted to thank you very much for having me as your guest, and thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.